Today we'll be doing Yemit Hashem Daf Lamed Hey Amud Aleph, which is a continuation of the Pirush in the Mishnah of Lamed Aleph Amud Beis. Till now, the Mishnah says that if you put the Eruvin in the Migdal, in a cupboard, in a type of cupboard which is called a Migdal, so you put the Eruvin in a Migdal and you lost the key to it, so that means he doesn't have access to the food of the Eruv. So we have a machlokes to the Tanakama and Rabbi Lazar. The Tanakama says that it is a good Eruv, and Rabbi Lazar says that it's not a good Eruv. So the Gemara was explaining what is the argument about, and the Gemara explained that the argument is about whether one is permitted to break open the Migdal. The Gemara explained that the machlokes is whether one is permitted to break open the Migdal and the cupboard, and explained that the cupboard was made out of the bricks which were not cemented together, and the machlokes is whether bricks which are not cemented together, whether you're allowed to break it open to get to the access to the food. And because of that, because of explaining that the machlokes is dependent on this argument, whether you're allowed to remove the bricks to get to the food, it ended up that we had to say the Mishnah was talking about Yom. So it's quite a bit of a doichek of how to explain that this whole Mishnah is discussing only Yom Tov. Right. So now today we're going to have an alternative way of explaining the Mishnah. So just to repeat again what the Mishnah is that there's machlokes if the key to the cupboard where you put the Eruv is lost. So is the Eruv considered a good Eruv, or it's not considered a good Eruv because you don't really have access because you don't have the key. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yosef said that that we're talking about not a migdal which is made out of bricks or stones. We're talking about a migdal which is a cupboard which is made of wood. So it's a wooden cupboard. So then there is a leniency over here because we have a klal of ein binyan bekelim. There's no binyan in kelim. And if there's no binyan in kelim, there's two of malachas and Shabbos. Malachas binyan, malachas seiser. If there's no binyan in kelim, so that follows there's no stira bekelim. So breaking the cupboard would not be a malacha on Shabbos. So therefore you have access because you can break open the cupboard and get to the food. Okay, let's do it inside. We're talking about a cupboard made of wood. The Marsovar, the Migdal is a large cupboard. So it's a large cupboard. So Marsovar Klihu, it's considered a Keli. So if it's considered a Keli, this large cupboard, so we have the cloud Ein Binyan Bekelim, Vein Stira Bekelim. So that's the reason of the Tanakama that says one is permitted, it is a good Eruv, because you have access to it. Break open the Migdal and then you can get to the food there. Marsovar, Rabbi Lazar, who says it's not a good Eruv, because he holds Oyelhu, that a Migdal, which is a big cupboard, is already not considered a Keli, it's considered an Oyel. Since it's considered an Oyel, so therefore there is binyan there. Therefore there is stiras. Therefore we can't break open the cupboard. So the machlokes is, can you break open the cupboard or not? Which is dependent if we consider the cupboard as a Keli or we consider the cupboard as an Oyel, which is a structure, a tent. It's already a structure, not a Keli. We'll look to the Hanetonai. Now, the Gemara wants to find support for this concept that there are actually two opinions of how we should look at a Migdal. So the Gemara is looking for support. It says and this is the same thing like we have machlekes in different Mishnah, where you see that there's the two opinions whether it's considered a keli or not. It's not word in the Mishnah. This is talking about a zav. Now the zav is Tomei. The zav is the tomb of a zav. Even if he doesn't touch, if he touches an object, the object becomes Tomei. But even if the zav does not touch the object, he moves it. He's maset the object. He moves it. So even without touching it, if it is, for instance, he moves it. Maybe he's wearing gloves, and he moves it, or maybe he uses a stick. Uses a stick to move an object. So the object which has been moved becomes Tomei. Now, so look at the Mishnah. Heikish al shida teva migdal. He knocked on this box or cupboard. Shida teva is a box. So he knocked on these boxes or cupboards. So if he knocked on these large boxes or cupboards without touching it, so to me and they're Tomei. Rabbi Nechemia and Rabbi Shimon Matarin. Rabbi Nechemia and Rabbi Shimon say that it does not. Those cupboards do not become Tomei. My love, is it not that the argument is Marsavar that these large cupboards klihu consider the keli? Therefore, since it's considered the keli, so therefore it becomes Tomei. Because when he knocks on the cupboard, so therefore the cupboard moves. He knocks on the cupboard, the cupboard moves, and the cupboard is moved. So it's a keli, so the keli becomes Tomei. Marsavar, the other opinion is oil. That these large cupboards, they're considered oil. So therefore, even though they move, but they're not a keli. So it's not a keli. So therefore, they don't become Tomei. It's something to become Tomei. It has to be a keli. And oil doesn't. Yeah. So it's an oil doesn't become Tomei. So we have support for this concept that that is debatable whether these large cupboards are considered the keli or not. Rabbi said, do you think it's debatable whether the cupboard is a tizber? Do you think that it's debatable whether it's a cupboard or a keli? And that is what the machlekes is. Vatanya learned in the Brisa. Since Abai is going to quote the Brisa, that it doesn't make a difference whether it's an oil or a keli. If it moves, even the oil becomes Tomei. If it doesn't move, then it's different. If it doesn't move, you push it doesn't move, or you knock it, it doesn't move, then it won't become Tomei. But if it moves, even if it's considered an oil, it will still become Tomei. The time in the Brisa, oil, benisat. If it's an oil, then it moved. So that the zav causes it to move by pushing it with some tool, or like I said, with his gloves. If it doesn't touch it, so Tomei, it becomes Tomei. Kli ve'eininisat, the kli and it didn't move. So even if he touched it with his gloves or something, not touching with his hand, touch it, and of course it becomes Tomei. By touching it with his gloves or with a stick, it touched it, it didn't move. It's tired. So therefore, there's no differentiation. So you have no support for this concept that there's a difference in oil and there is debate. There's debate whether a large cupboard is a clear oil. And you can't say that this Mishnah is debating it, and therefore, so you don't have support for this whole concept. So how do you say that this is the argument in our Mishnah over here? And again, continuing further in this Mishnah for which he brought support, just to eliminate any support. First, we're trying to eliminate support. We're not disproving it that it cannot be an argument, but we're just eliminating any support. So the Ketani Sefer and the Sefer of the Mishnah of the Mishnah with Tumah of the Zav. So it says Im Hoyunu Sotin Tmein. It says the Farish in the Sefer that we're talking about the cupboards, and it says if it was moved, then it's Tomei. And Zeh Klau Niset Machmas Koichet Tomei. Machmas Order Toyer. That if it moves if the cupboard moved because Zav pushed it or knocked on it. So then it's Tommy. If the sheet or the table, the middle, these cupboards, they moved because of a trembling. That means that the Zav, for instance, he stamped on the floor, for instance, he stamped on the floor, and the stamping on the floor that caused the cupboard to move. If the stamping on the floor, so then that's already an indirect koyach. So it's an indirect koyach. So then it's Torah. So it's a koyach of a koyach. So if it pushes it with a stick or something, then it's his koyach and his tummy. But if he stamped on the floor and the floor trembled a bit and so then it's Torah. So we see that everybody agrees to that. So in other words, that the whole argument between and the Rabbi Nechemia and the Tanakhama, they all agree. They all agree to this safe of the mission. There's no argument there. So you see, there's no argument. It can be that those kelim can become tummy. It's so you cannot say the argument is whether it's a kli and becomes tummy or whether it's oil and doesn't become tummy. You can't say that because these seeds are cloud that if it moves, it becomes tummy. So there's no so everybody agrees that they can become tummy, and there's no difference between the keli and the oil in that respect. Elam Rabbi says the Kula Alma everybody agrees Hesed Machmas Koicha tummy. Everybody holds that if you use koichai, like he pushed it up with a stick or something, then it's tummy. Machmas Ra'oda Toher. If it moved, Machmas Ra'oda, he stamped his foot on the ground, and that caused the keli to move, then it's Toher. That it didn't actually move. The keli only trembled. So he pushed it with a stick or knocked it. He gave it a push, and it didn't push it. It didn't move, but it trembled. So he banged it. Let's say he was wearing gloves, and he banged on it. So he banged on it, and it trembled. Oh, so that's so the machlekes in the Mishnah is about come before. Well, and this is what the machlekes is. The Marsal, one of the Tanakhama holds that have a hesed, that trembling when the keli trembles, that's considered the moving. Marsavan, and the other ones holds they have a hesed, that the keli trembles is not considered moving. Okay, the kids are advar. So this brisa with Tuma, we decided now that it has nothing to do with the debate whether a migdal is a keli or an oya. So no. So now the Gemara says, okay, so the Gemara wants to so after Abaye's question, after Abaye's questioning the pirush, the pirush of Rabbi Yosef, so how is he going to explain our Mishnah? What's the argument in our Mishnah? When he gave it to an Erev, what's the Rabbi Lazar and Tanakhama arguing? So the Gemara says, they all say the manu the kotibe masnaskinon that we're talking about with the lock, that the cupboard is locked, but the lock is tied up with a string. So the manu the kotibe masnaskinon. It's tied up with a string. So you have the lock there, you have the exact workings of the lock, but the lock is the reason why it's locked up is, I guess you can undo it with a key. If you have the key, you'll be able to undo it. But if you don't have the key, but it's the lock is tied around the thing, and then the way it works, it's string based. It's based on a string. So since it's string based, so therefore you can actually cut the strings. Probably it's a strong it's a strong rope. You can't just pull it apart and tear it with your hand. Strong rope. So you can cut the string. Well, boys, and you need a knife to be able to cut. And therefore, the machlokes is going to be: are you permitted to take a knife to cut the string of that lock? And that machlokes is a machlokes in Dinei Muktzah. Tanakamas, the Tanakama saw like Rabbi Yossi, the Tanakama holds like Rabbi Yossi, the Omar called Hakelim and Tom B'Shabbat, Chutz and Meser HaGod, V'Yosef Shemachresha, that you're allowed to, all Kelim, you're allowed to carry Kelim Shabbos, except the thing which you use for a plow, the metal part for a plow, or Meser HaGodol, big knife, so some very big knife. So besides the big knife and the plow, so all kelim, you're allowed to carry on Shabbos kelim, and therefore you're allowed to carry them. So therefore, you can take a knife, get hold of a knife, any knife, and then cut through the rope, which you're allowed to do because you're allowed to break through the rope because in binyan the kelim will come into it. So you're allowed to break through the rope. Tosfos explains that you'd be allowed to break through the rope, but you would not be allowed to break the cupboard. Because Tosfos explains that the breaking of the cupboard, the aim binyan became doesn't apply. If it's something which is properly built, a keli, Tosfos' opinion is a keli which is properly built is the klal of aim binyan became doesn't apply. So therefore, you can't actually break the cupboard. That's Tosfos' explanation. And with a knife, the lock part of it, that's not the proper part of the cupboard. You roped it in and you put a lock around it with a rope, chain, or whatever it was, type of thing, situation. So that is not a proper binyan. So that's not a proper binyan that would do apply the klal of ein binyan b'kelim. So let me just repeat that. Tosfos' opinion is that the klal of ein binyan b'kelim does not apply to a proper keli, but only something which is not so completely stable and strong and solid keli. But then we apply the klal of ein binyan b'kelim. So therefore, only the string you can break open, but you cannot break open the cupboard itself. And so therefore, so therefore, and according to Tosfos, we'd have to explain beforehand in the Gemara that also the cupboard, the wooden cupboard, is not so strong or put together. It's not complete keli. That's what we'll have to explain according to Tosfos. But now that we said we're talking about the string, so we can say it's a proper cupboard and it's well and it's completely a strong cupboard. And the only thing which you need to break over here, which we're talking about breaking, is which we were permitted to break, is the lock. So, but the problem is the knife. So according to the Tanakama, the first Tanakama says you're allowed to. It's a good area of why, because you can take a knife. So you can take a knife and then cut open the thing because it's too tough to tear open the hand. And right, Rabbi Lezer Sovelak Rabbi Nechemia, he holds like Rabbi Nechemia. The Omar, he says, I feel a talis, I feel a tarvid, ain't it that even a beggar, not those metal which you use for a plow or this very big saw. No, even a beggar, or even a regular keli, you cannot move them only for what is the normal usage. So therefore, the normal usage for a knife is to eat with. So therefore, you're not permitted. So according to Rabbi Nechemia, you're not permitted. Shabbos is part of the din. According to Rabbi Nechemia, that's part of the din of Muktzah, that you're not allowed to use a knife for other purposes other than for eating. And so therefore, you can't use a knife to break open, because of Muktzah, you can't use a knife to break open the cupboard to get to the Eruv. Says the Mishnah in his Galgal Chutz Tchum, if the Eruv, you put the Eruv there, but you put the Eruv in the place where you want to be there, but it's rolled away outside the Tchum. So let's say I decided on the Amor number 2000, on the Amber number 2000 from the city, I decided to put the food there. And then the food rolled away 6-7 foot So it draw the way. So it's outside the tchum. So that means that I can't walk from the city to get to the food, because to get to the food, I have to walk outside the 2,000. So there's more than 2,000 amas from where the city where you're staying and where you're sleeping, where you're eating, and from that and to where the food is more than 2,000 amas. So the whole concept of the Eruv is that the center is where you put the food, and therefore you have 2,000 amas in all directions from where you place the food, and the place where you're staying over the night, where you're going to sleep the night, is within the 2,000 amas. So therefore you're able to walk the 2,000 till the food, and from there you have another 2,000. But if the food is outside the 2,000 amas, so if let's say the food is your center, so then you can't sleep in your house because it's more than 2,000 amas away. So what happens if the food rolled on chum? So then it's obviously it's not going to be a good day. Same thing also. No, for all of gal, if a whole pile of stones and that things and fell on it, and that was covered again, it's inaccessible. You can't get to it because it's all stuff, some wall or something fell over it. Or it got burned, or truma v'nitmas. It was truma and it became tome. Therefore, truma becomes tome, so nobody can eat it. And that so it's not right for anybody. So maybe if it happened for the shkia in area, if all this stuff happened before the shkia, so then the area is not kosher. If it's after Ben Hashmoshes, it's an area. Once it was there Ben Hashmoshes, so that's okay. Sofek, if it's a sofek, if it was there, if it's a sofek, it was there mishcheich or not. So you don't know if it was there for the entire time of the Ben Hashmoshes. So you don't know if the eruv was effective. So then it's a sofek. Is maybe with the Imar is a chamar gomel. Chamar gomel means that you're stuck, like a chamar gomel, because the gomel, the way you lead the gomel, you lead from the front. You tie the head of the gomel to the string, and you walk in front of it. And the gomel, the chamar is he walks behind. He walks behind the chamar, and he knocks the chamar with a stick or something, and makes him walk. So you have to. It's either one or the other. You can't. So they're like the contradictory. The person, the style of leading the chamor is contradictory to the style of leading the gomel. So therefore, the same thing also. It's since it's a suffix, so there's a contradiction here, and since the contradiction, so therefore you lose everything. You don't have 4,000 amas. So you have the Eruv where the Eruv is. You're not sure if the Eruv was there. You're not sure if the Eruv was there Ben Hashmoshes. That means that maybe it was there. So that on one hand, maybe it was there. So therefore, you cannot walk. You've lost the 2,000 cities. I didn't explain that. Because when you put the Eruv, what happens is that you lose the 2,000 amas to the other direction of the city. So let's say you're going north, and you put the Eruv in the north. So the reason why you gain an extra 2,000 amas to going north, and you can now walk 4,000 amas north instead of only 2,000 amas north of the city, because the center has become the Eruv. Once the center has become the Eruv, so therefore you have 2,000 amas from the Eruv to the city, and then from the Eruv northwards you have another 2,000 amas. But you've lost 2,000 amas by putting the Eruv. You lost the 2,000 amas that you could have walked south to the city. That's a normal situation. Now that we don't know if the Eruv was a good Eruv or not, so maybe it was a good Eruv. So the one hand, maybe it was a good Eruv, and therefore you've lost the 2,000 amas south of the city. On the other hand, maybe it was not a good Eruv. So therefore, the 2,000 amas, which is north of the Eruv, also can't be relied on. So therefore, all that's left for you is the 2,000 amas between the Eruv and the city. So you sort of lost half your distance of walking because of the suffix. You go each way l'chumra. They say suffix Eruv kosher. Omer Rabbi Yossi, of Tulmos Heid Mishum Chamishus Kelim Hasofik Eresh Kosher. So he brings testimony from from a certain Talmud Chacham that Sofik Erev is kosher. It's in the Rabbanon, and Sofik Erev is kosher. Okay. The Skalgal Chutz Tchum. If you went outside the Tchum, so we say that if it rolled outside the Tchum, so then you've lost it's not a kosher Erev because you can't get from the city, you can't get to the Erev, or the other way around, from the Erev you can't get to the city because it's more than 2,000 amos in between. This is only if it rolls more than 6 foot away, more than Arba Amas away from the 2,000 Amas post, from the 2,000 Amas limit. If it's within Arba Amas of the 2,000 limit, person that puts an Erev, he has Dalad Amas. So therefore, if you put the Erev, let's say you put it on the Amma number 2002. If you put the Erev on 2002, so therefore you have Dalad Amas around you. So therefore, from the center of the area, you have 2,000 around. So those Dalad Amas include, and the whole that Dalad Amas includes. So it's a part of the 2,000 is within the Dalad Amas of the area, because it's considered like you put your house there. So let's say if your house was on the sorry, the Dalad Amas is as if we count Dalad Amas around the Erev as if it's your house. So if I put the Erev on Amma number 2002, so as if I have a house there, and the house extends Arba Amas southwards to the city. So therefore, it's inside the Tchum. Part of the house is inside the Tchum. So if part of the house is inside the Tchum, so the whole house is you're able to walk around. So therefore it's kosher. It's the whole house. So it's like a house, even though it's not in a house, just outside. But since it's in the Dalad Amas, so it's considered all in one rishus, and it's good area. Nofla of Gal, if pile of stones fell in it, that what's the problem with this stone? It's chocolate. It's the stones which you can remove. You can take them away. So therefore, you can remove the stones. Therefore, he can remove the stone. And therefore, so what's the problem? The problem is that it's not accessible. Why is it not accessible? Because of muktzah. Because the stones are muktzah. So it's muktzah is only Rabbanon. It's only Rabbanon. So therefore, it's not a big problem because going to Rabbi, we don't care about the Rabbanons because it's been a shmoshes. There's no issue the Rabbanon and all that. So which we discussed before. So Lema must listen like Rabbi. That means our mission is not like Rabbi. The Iker Rabbi. If it's Rabbi, goes are all ben hashmoshes. So therefore, you are able, is accessible ben hashmoshes, because it's only Isra Rabbanon Shabbos, and therefore it's only Isra Rabbanon. Yeah, so therefore it's accessible. So so the mission is not Rabbi. Someone says, I feel a Tamik Rabbi. No, you can say our mission is Rabbi, but the mission is talking about when the pile of stones that fell in it is such you can't remove it by hand. You need to dig it. To dig it with the boy more of a chitzina, you need to have a spade and dig and so on. So then it's digging, and therefore since it's digging, so then it's a deraisa. So that therefore then even Rabbi will agree that it's not fit to be an error. It's tricky, and we need to have the din of misgalgal and also the din of nofel olav gal, even though why do you need the two dinim? Both of them are the same. It's not accessible. So you need iton nisgalgal and the lesigabe. If it would say nisgalgal, I'll say that's why it's not an erev, because it's not there. Where he is, it's not there. The food is not in the place where it's further away from the place where he is. So that's why it's not good erev. I will not follow the gal, the isigabe, when he's right next to the food. It's a good erev, even though it's not accessible for different reasons. But since it's close to him, so we don't care about the fact it's inaccessible because of Malach is a Shabbos. The fact it's inaccessible because of Is a Shabbos, that doesn't bother us. That doesn't make it plus. If it says the gal, so I would say that the gal because it's covered. So since it's covered, so therefore, So therefore, it's not if they don't even see it. So therefore, it can't be considered an Erev. Avnis Galgal, if it just rolled out. No, that's not gefährlich. It's not, because you might end up being able to have it on Shabbos. How? Zimrin the also zikil ma'isele, because the wind might blow and blow it back in. So an Emel have Erev. So I think it's a good Erev, because the possibility will still be a good Erev. So it's not. So tzrich, that's why you need to have both cases. Oy nisraf, and the next case in the mission was burned. Truma v'nitma, so Truma became Tom. The Gemara says, Lama tan the nisraf. Why did you say nisraf? If the Truma becomes Tome, is not good for an Erev. Sure, if it's completely burnt, it's not that for sure. It's not a good Erev. So why do you need the nisraf? So he says, the Achad teach us Keicha de Rabbi Yosi. Teaches the Keicha Rabbi Yosi that if it's a suffix nisraf, because we have machlekes, what happens in the case of the suffix? They have the case of suffix. We have machlekes. So according to Rabbi Yosi, it's a good Erev in a suffix. According to Rabbi, it's not a good suffix. That's why it tells you nisraf. But even though it's suffix nisraf, which is worse than truma, which came tummy, because there's mamish nothing there. So nevertheless, suffix will be kosher according to Rabbi Yosi. The whole suffix, suffix Erev is kosher. But the achar keicher basic. Kana truma v'nitmas, like achar keicher der meir. It tells you truma v'nitmas, tells you keicher der meir, that even though it's there, but since it's not edible to anybody, it doesn't not fit for an Erev, and even though it's there, a suffix according to Meir, it will be also. So each one of them, we give a stricter case and a more lenient.